Well, I just like to welcome everyone. This is Greg Walker. I'm the research director from CABA. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Connected Home Council meeting. This meeting will have special presentations and from our keynote speaker, and it'll be they'll be chaired by Roy Perry from Alarm.com. We are recording the webinar for those that are unable to attend. I know that there was quite a few that couldn't attend just because of the holidays yesterday, and we'll be recording that, and you can share that out with your colleagues after the webinar. And with that, I'll start with the agenda. We'll go over the agenda, and then we'll have and Roy will do a call to order, a welcome, some introductions, and a little bit about the Connected Home Council, the CHC, and what we do as a council. And then there'll be some administrative work where we approve the past minutes. Anyone who's has reviewed those or is on the council is open to making a motion to approve those minutes. And then we'll have a special keynote presentation from Sanjay Gupta on RF power enabled smart homes, IoT sensors to go mainstream. It'll be around 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes. Then we'll do a research update on some of the connected home research projects. We did one on the connected home roadmap, and then we're doing one on 2019 on smart home as a service. And then Ken Wax will be doing an update on the white papers that are under development and the recently completed white papers. And then in new business, we'll have there'll be a little bit of update on one of the member benefits on the CABA white paper program. There'll be an update on the lighting and homes for tomorrow competition. And then they'll be opening for new business if anyone wants to propose any new topics or new initiatives for the CHC. And then we'll do announcements of some upcoming events in the connected home space, some past events, and followed by adjournment. I'll pass it off to Roy Perry. So Roy Perry's been he's been the vice chair of this Connected Home Council, and then now the chair of the Connected Home Council. He's the VP of Ecosystem Alliances at Alarm.com. So with that, I'll pass it off to Roy to chair the meeting.
Well, thanks, Greg. Really appreciate it. And I want to thank everybody for taking some time to join today. I know your time is quite valuable, and it's really difficult to stay current in this highly accelerated space that we're in, the Internet of Things, and all of the smart aspects. I'll use that loosely, related to artificial intelligence and machine learning and the whole new frontier that we're facing. So thanks for taking your time. I'd like to extend thanks to CABA and note that it's the 30-year anniversary of CABA, and this would be the 15th anniversary of the Connected Home Council. So just wanted to express appreciation just around CABA's foresight and vision around where this was all leading, even way back then. So with that, I'll go ahead and call to order the meeting and talk a little bit about the Connected Home Council and what we do. The objective of the CHC is to work on residential and multiple dwelling unit, or MDU, issues and opportunities that allow CABA to achieve its vision, which is advancing technology and integrated systems in homes and buildings, creating opportunities for our members' business activities, and serving as a preferred global source of information, knowledge, and networking for key stakeholders. That universe of information and knowledge has grown exponentially over the last 15 to 30 years, and so I really want to give a shout out to CABA for taking on what is a huge challenge. More specifically, the Connected Home Council is focused on, again, residential and MDU issues. and consists of looking at building initiatives such as the research projects that Greg and others will talk about later, as well as bringing you together to share information about the latest technology and services in the space. So I'd like to go ahead and make a call for motion to approve the minutes. They were, I believe, sent out previously or available on the CHC website, shown on the slide here. Is there a call for a motion to, do we have a motion to approve the minutes? Everybody's probably on mute, so I'm not sure whether that motion can be made via chat, but not hearing anything, Greg. I'll just turn to you and ask you what to do at this point.
Well, any of the vice chairs be able to make a motion, or maybe Ken Wax or anyone else that is on the council?
This is Ken. I can move.
Okay. Is there a second?
I move. This is Ann Breen.
Okay, thanks, Ann. Is there any opposed? Not hearing any opposed, the motion passes and the minutes are approved. I do want to take a moment to introduce the other vice chairs. They are Obi Ek and Danny from ABB, and Danny Strand from TELUS. Danny couldn't make it today, but Obi is the product marketing manager responsible for home automation and industrial connectors for ABB Building Products Group in the U.S. He's responsible for go-to-market strategies, channel development, and sales support for both product groups. So that is Obi's quick bio. You can see more information on Obi on the website. And Danny Strand is the construction lead new growth markets at TELUS, based in Vancouver, Canada, and is currently leading the new growth market segment at TELUS. He works with building partners and construction partners and the workforce to enable newly constructed commercial and residential buildings. And I assume that involves building out the broadband networks and fiber networks that are in all of those build outs. So Obi and Danny and myself are on the Connected Home Council, and we again want to thank you for taking some time to participate in this webinar. With that, I would like to go ahead and introduce our keynote speaker for today, Sanjay Gupta from the Air Fuel Alliance. And Sanjay will be talking about, it's a mouthful for the title, but I think it's extremely important, RF power enabling smart home IoT sensors to go mainstream. And before I introduce Dr. Gupta, I just want to make a quick comment about powering. It's been my experience that powering is the last great IoT challenge. Arguably, there is no IoT device that can talk IP for years at a time on batteries. So since we're not going to get multiple years out of batteries to be able to power our IoT devices continuously to the point where we don't get annoyed with battery replacement, I think wireless powering could be the last piece that's needed to really make the IoT take off. So I think it's a great topic, and wanted to thank Dr. Gupta for providing this presentation. Dr. Gupta is an entrepreneurial technology executive experienced in new technology to market, bringing new technology to market, and creating global standards necessary for interoperability and market adoption. He's held leadership in the 3GPP, which is the mobile industry standards body, the Open Mobile Alliance, and other global standards organizations. Recently, he headed product management and development at Witricity, where he played a key role in engineering and bringing to the market the world's first air-fuel compliant wireless charging laptop. Another mouthful. With that, I'd like to go ahead and hand it off to Sanjay to begin his presentation, and we'll have a Q&A at the end. So please jot down your questions, and we'll address those at the end. Thank you, Sanjay.
Thank you so much for the awesome introduction, and I think you've already sold why we need this better than I could have. So thank you so much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend maybe half the time talking about wireless power and what Airfuel Alliance does, and then we're going to save equal amount of time to talk really about relevant for what's relevant for smartphones and smart sensors and all of that stuff. So with that said, let's get to the next slide. And I think really what the first thing I wanted to do is, I'm not sure if everybody's aware, CABA and Airfuel Alliance have been partnering with each other for at least a couple of years now. And I think we are discovering as we go along a lot of synergies and how the two organizations can work together. And I really wanted to thank everybody here and kind of celebrate our cooperation. In a way, I think there's a lot of intersection points for what each organization does. So, okay, let's get to the next one. And we can click one more. I'll get rid of the animation on the slide for some reason. Okay, wireless, if you look at it, power cords are the last cords left in our world now, right? I really wish we could eliminate the last wire that we have and kind of get rid of all the power bricks and the cables that we all carry in our bags and the challenges it creates in our world, right? And I keep having to, when I talk wireless power, everybody thinks it's all about smartphones. And I keep telling everybody, look, smartphones is a very, very small part of the wireless power universe and market. In fact, there are other bigger markets, believe it or not, for wireless power than smartphones. People think smartphones is the holy grail. That's the market we all need to chase. No, I keep telling them, look, if you look at any industry forecasts and you look at the IoT sensors and devices, we are talking about tens of billions of these sensors per year, right? So there are way bigger markets. I don't have to walk you through every market here, but wireless power is huge, right? And this is the next big technology that is coming into our lives, right? And the technology is maturing very fast. And I've spent a lot of time doing cellular in my life. And I keep reminding people, right, wireless power is in its very, very infancy in terms of technology. This is like analog cell phones when we used to carry brake car batteries, on the side to power these cell phones. And what Airfuel is really doing is transitioning this awesome technology to the next generation and the technology improvements that we need. There are some numbers here. We can go through it, but to kind of keep some time at the end, I want to skip through some of those numbers. They'll be all here. Okay, let's get to the next slide. And let's see what consumers need, right? And I think what you will see here are things that consumers want and expect for any technology in the wireless area. The first is interoperability, right? Wireless means it creates two sides. There's a transmit and a receive side, right? By the very definition of wireless. And what that means is you need to create an ecosystem that is interoperable. Multiple vendors can supply solutions that all nicely work together, right? And the debate on standards and interoperability got settled, I would say, about 20 plus years ago, right? Where in cellular, at least, the the GSM, the European version of socialism won out over the US version of capitalism, where everybody was doing their own thing and the market wasn't taking off. And now we've all adopted GSM and its evolution for all of our global communication needs, cellular needs at least, right? And that's what we need in wireless power as well. You're going to need interoperability. Then the next thing is versatility. What I mean by versatility is you need to be, there is a single outlet on the wall today, and you can plug pretty much any device that you own into this wall and it receives power and it can be happy with it. If you look at wireless power today, that is actually not the case, right? You have to design solutions that are one-off, and if it's a 5-watt solution or a 5 to 10 watt solution, it can only power devices between 5 and 10 watts. And good luck if you try and put something that only wanted 1 watt. It will still get 5 watts, which may actually be not so good, right? And if you need 30 watts, well, tough luck, it won't even get anything, right? That is not a very attractive situation. You really want to be not only be able to charge multiple devices and all of this stuff at the same time, but at least I need one transmitter that can power all of my electronics, right? And the last one is fast, right? Any technology, if it comes with a lot of strings attached, consumers don't want it, right? We all got rid of the Ethernet cable in our bag because the Wi-Fi experience became as good as an Ethernet experience from my perspective, right? This is when we said, okay, I don't need a cable. There is really no advantage to carrying a cable in my bag, right? Today, when you use wireless power, let's say to charge our smartphones, you have to make a choice. Do you want fast charging or do you want wireless? Consumers don't like that. Consumers say, I want wireless and I want it fast. And that's what the next generation technology is going to have to deliver. Okay, let's get to the next chart. Okay, so let's see what we have today, right? So today what we have is, what I like to say the wireless power 1.0, which is point charging. It's a technology called inductive, which is really a point charging, which is you put a device on a very well-defined point and it can receive energy. The device moves even a couple of millimeters in any of the 3 dimensions and it will stop charging, right? And it can deliver a very small amounts of power, which is different than what you would want it to have. And we've all seen this technology and experienced it, by the way, in electric toothbrushes and some of our smartphones. What does the next generation technology hold, right? So if you look at customers, we've all heard, hey, charge multiple devices, give me spatial freedom, and the 3 things that we talked through. So this technology is actually available today, something that Airfuel has been working on for the last 5 years or so, called magnetic resonance. And magnetic resonance technology allows you to charge anything from a watt to, let's say, half a kilowatt, right? So 500 watts, charge multiple devices at the same time from a single transmitter. And it is smart enough to know how much power does a device need and be able to modulate the amount of power that we can deliver, right? So you can charge, in a way, you can achieve what was supposed to be air power with magnetic resonance today. And then there is another, so what actually, one of the limitations of what magnetic resonance does, by the way, it's important to know, is the Z distance that you can have between the 2 coils, for all practical purposes, is going to be limited to a few inches, right? And I always tell people this is less of a technology limitation, but more of a regulatory limitation. Anytime you transfer power, you always have to worry about safety to humans, to living objects, and to all of the other electronics, right? So what that means is you cannot interfere with your radio and TV and any other communication that may be going on. Trust me, there's a lot of wireless communication around us, right? So when you're transferring half a kilowatt of power, I can certainly go over more than a few inches, but then you realize you may start impacting some of the other things negatively, or you may not be able to get through all of the regulatory testing that you have to go through. right? So it's less of a technology limitation, but more of a regulatory limitation. And this is not unique to magnetic resonance, but all of the wireless power technology. So you ask the question, hey, why did we choose a few inches? A few inches is what is good in terms of being able to create surfaces that are charging enabled. So imagine a desk, right, that at work on which you can put all of your electronics, whether it's a display, your phone, your laptop, your mouse, your keyboard, they can all receive power from something that is underneath. Or imagine a kitchen counter or a work surface, right, on which you have the wireless power transmitters underneath these surfaces, and everything on top of them can be charged, right? So it's really something that is coming from what is needed from an experiential perspective rather than a fundamental technology limitation. Then there is another exciting technology, which is RF to communicate power. And RF, in this case, we're talking about using frequencies, 900 megahertz and above, where you can actually get what I like to say, 3D experience for charging, right? So if I call magnetic resonance as surface charging, the geeky people like to call RF as, in a way, as volumetric charging, right? So anything that is in a given specified volume can receive power. Now, as I said, my earlier comment related to safety still applies. So what that means is if you're going to use RF, the regulatory regimen is exactly the same as your cell phones have to go through, right? So no new rules are needed for wireless power. You just have to make sure the rules are already there, and you are going to be following the same rules. What that means from a practical perspective of wireless power is, if you're going to use RF frequencies, the amount of power that you can transfer safely is going to be limited, right? And traditionally, you're going to have to be limited to less than a watt. Now, a watt of power is actually sufficient, and even milliwatts of power is sufficient for a lot of applications, especially in the IoT world. So this is a standard that really addresses the needs of these low power devices, whether they are wearables, your keyboard, mice, IoT sensors, everything that you talk about, you can use RF for that purpose. When you need tens of milliwatts of power, or let's say up to half a watt of power, but truly wireless in a 3D kind of an environment, this technology works very well. So the two technologies in the Aerofuel portfolio are kind of complementary to each other. One offers you power up to half a kilowatt, but over create surfaces, but over reduced Z distance, and RF gives you a true 3D experience, but certainly lower amounts of power. Okay, let's go to the next slide now. And just as an overview of Aerofuel Alliance, right? So we are, as was said previously, a global organization, and all of our members are committed to, we like to say, a world where we can all power up and juice up without plugging anything in. This is the last, solving the last few feet, these ugly cable mess that we have. And our primary role is to develop the standards for this technology. And in a way, we are very similar to what Wi-Fi Alliance does or Bluetooth SIG does. But we not only do technology, but we also spend a lot of effort in marketing and promoting and accelerating the time frame for some of these new technologies to come to market. And we have a fairly diverse membership that is global in nature, and all the different stakeholders of the wireless power value chain, not just technology providers, OEMs, ODMs, manufacturing companies all over the globe. Semiconductor companies are part of Aerofuel Alliance, working together very, very nicely, actually, to make this happen. Okay. Here's the next chart, which will, here are all, some of the names that I'm sure everybody will recognize on this chart, all the different members of Aerofuel Alliance. My apologies if some have been left out of this chart, couldn't fit every logo in this, but I'm sure you will recognize the who's who of electronics world are members of Aerofuel Alliance and working together. Okay. So let's get to a smart home, right? So what is a smart home? A smart home isn't smart if you don't have all of the smart, people think about smart homes as, hey, I can use my smartphone or whatever to control everything in my house. At the end, what is needed to make this happen are all of these cool smart sensors running around, right? Whether it's lights or your garage door opener or your cameras or your TV remotes and everything, right? You all need at the end these sensors that are monitoring all of these different things and sensing all the different modalities in your home and then giving you the power along with the cloud and your devices to do something really smart with them. But at the end, if we go to the next slide, yeah, this part is good, right? Smart homes don't happen if the smart sensors are not there, right? And so I went to the web and I said, okay, what are the different smart sensors I can find? And I could fill up 20 charts with these, all the smart sensors, but some of them are really interesting, right? You got this door sensor, right? Home security system that needs sensors, and they all have batteries. You have these temperature sensors that work with your thermostats that need batteries. You got these tile sensors for locating objects, your precious things that people are attaching these sensors to, but they all need batteries. I've had the ugly experience of having to dealing with what happens when the smart lock that you have, which has a battery in it, runs out of juice, right? It actually happened to be in a hotel. The battery on this thing is dead. Now nobody can open the door, right? Send somebody from services to come and figure out a way to open that door for me. Your car key fob batteries run out, right? People want to put these wireless cameras outside. And the reason why we don't see more cameras is because you need to run a power cable to these, and that's the biggest problem, right? And I could go on and on and on. And I think Roy said it better than anybody else could, right? A lot of what we envision as part of a smart home and these smart IoT sensors, once you start deploying them, and I have certainly, my home would qualify as being smart, my biggest challenge is now locating all these sensors, changing batteries, and frequently something is out of battery or the other, right? It's just a nasty way. And I really wish I had wireless power charging all of these devices that I have without having to constantly worry about changing batteries. To me, the cost of actually changing the battery, it's not even the cost of the battery, just finding the sensor, changing the battery, having a supply of them is just a nuisance that I don't want to have, right? We talk about BLE location beacons, right? That's the little Cisco thing that I found. It has the same problem, right? We're not seeing a lot more of them just because you can't find those beacons anywhere now. Okay, let's get to the next chart, right? So this is kind of, what it goes to make anything smart at the end is, and this whole IoT doesn't happen if you don't have smart sensors and you need connectivity, right? Sensors are not smart if they keep all the sense data there. They have to go communicate it to somewhere. And then you have all this cloud stuff that can use the latest processing in the cloud and provide services. Unfortunately, both sensing and connectivity at an abstract level need some amount of energy, right? Semiconductors are getting more and more efficient, but they will never be efficient enough that they can run without, they don't need any energy, right? So they will need some amount of energy for sure, right? And this is where wireless power comes in. And I think a lot of the evolution that we have seen in the last few years has been as the sensing and the connectivity is becoming more and more efficient, that roadmap is actually now intersecting very well with the capabilities of what wireless power can provide, what RF can provide as wireless power solution, right? So previously, what we could deliver from a power perspective using RF in true 3D was not sufficient to power these sensors. The silicon was not efficient enough. But now, due to advancements in both communication and sensing and processing with these small microprocessors that keep getting more and more efficient every day, the stars are getting aligned for all of this to happen now, right? So if you go to the next chart here, let's see what, and there are lots of benefits to by the way, these battery-free smart sensors, right? It's not just the hassle of changing batteries. Yes, that is number one. That's what everybody talks about. Can I have something that is like a perpetually running sensor, right? It can run. I don't have to worry about it. But there are a lot of other benefits. Batteries and all of these chemicals are exceedingly toxic. The fact that we may not have to dump them in a landfill is actually a huge plus, right? The other one is actually, and I have to keep reminding this, having spent a lot of years in consumer electronics myself, the size and shape and form factors of what we build today is really limited by the batteries, right? Everything else that I build can be thin and flexible and very light. My cell phones aren't going to get any thinner if the thickest part of mine, the biggest bulk is in the battery, right? That applies to all of the devices that I build today. So wireless power allows me to build not only really thin paper-like sensors, but make them flexible, make them super light, and actually build them cheaply, right? And when you don't have batteries, nothing explodes, right? And they're actually, at the end, going to be much safer than electronics today, not just from an environmental perspective, but everything else. If you don't have a battery, it can't explode, is what I keep telling people. Okay, so it goes way beyond just eliminating a long product life. Okay, we can go to the next chart here, right? So we worked with the industry and understand, hey, what do we really need at the end, right? What are the requirements really from an RF side? And as you start digging in, you really realize you don't need to send wireless energy and send watts and watts of energy over a long distance. All what you need to solve is what I like to say, the equivalent of the last mile in communications, right? I just want to send the last few meters, right? I am willing to have a transmitter in every room if I need to, right? So even 5 meters is actually maybe an overkill. What you really need at the end is about 3 to 5 meters, somewhere there, right? So this way you can have a transmitter for energy in every room that can power these small sensors, right? But what is extremely important to have is one-to-many charging. Don't tell me that I need as many transmitters as the receivers I have, right? I want to be able to use one transmitter to power all of my different sensors. In the ideal world, I would love to have communication, right? I need community, we talked about these IoT sensors, they all need to communicate and send the sense data to the cloud, right? And receive some data back every now and then as well. But it's a nice to have. And the reason why I say nice to have is because the moment you add, from a regulatory perspective, the moment you start communicating data over RF, there are slightly different set of rules. If you're only using it for power, there is only a certain set of rules which are actually looser, right? So from a technology standards perspective, it may make sense to keep your power and your wireless power and wireless communications separate. It does not mean by any means that integration cannot happen from an implementation perspective. So when if you're a semiconductor company, for example, you can put Bluetooth, low energy, along with the wireless power IP onto the same piece semiconductor. You can absolutely do that. But from a technology perspective, there's actually a good reason to keep them separate, right? So this is why I put them nice to have, and this is where people use their creativity and say, okay, I can get the benefit of both worlds. I can get a slightly looser regulatory environment for wireless power, but get the benefits of having the communication still integrated, right? And you really have to be able to build, as I said, single chip solutions. You want these devices to be cheap. You want to be able to build single chip, fully integrated systems along with a microprocessor. So you really have, and sensing built in. So you can keep the costs of these sensors really, really low, which allows you to get to these really, really high volumes. Okay, so let's get to the next slide, and I can share a little bit more about what the standard looks like today, right? So it provides us power delivery, as we like to say, during normal use of operation. The device could be in your pocket or in your bag, and it can still continue to charge, right? and you get spatial freedom in all dimensions, really is what it allows you to do. The maximum power that we talked about is, of course, limited to a couple of watts. And I'm sure most people can understand, the closer you are to the transmitter, the more power you can receive, right? So if you are at a feet, maybe you can get a watt. If you get out to 3 meters, 4 meters, now you're talking milliwatts, right? You're not going to change physics there. We allow you to charge multiple receivers for the reasons we've explained before. We use an out-of-band communication mechanism. Today, the standard uses BLE, which is the Bluetooth Low Energy. However, our standard is portable enough that you can run it over different communication mechanisms. So, right, so if your example, your product has Wi-Fi already inbuilt, you can use Wi-Fi to send the air-fuel messaging. You don't necessarily have to go through the cost of adding another Bluetooth low energy part, right? So the messaging and the protocol can run over different bearers. We've chosen BLE because that's really what most devices are using today. And the frequencies that are being used today for RF is actually 915 megahertz, which happens to be in the ISM band, I would say almost globally, save a couple of countries that we are working with right now. But there are other ISM bands where you can use our standard as well, which is the 2.4 gigahertz or the 5 gigahertz ISM bands, right? Again, that depends on the use cases. The propagation characteristics are a little bit different in different frequency bands. And certainly you can use different bands if it works for your use case. And if somebody is looking for additional help, I'm sure either I or any of our additional airfield members can go into significantly more details here. Let's get to the next chart. I've also wanted, a single chart on air-fuel resonant. Yes, even though it says spatial freedom in all dimensions, the one dimension is going to be limited to a few inches. Now, this is a standard that can get very, very efficient, which is, I tell people this can be as efficient as a wire, actually, which is hard to believe, but we can actually make that happen. And this is the standard you need if you need tens of watts of power, right? If you want to charge your smartphone fast or your laptop at its wired speed, or you have a display and a table lamp and everything else that you need powered on a desk, this is the right standard for you, right? So we can deliver hundreds of watts of power. We can create charging surfaces where you can blindly put devices to charge, and they're all charging without having to look at it 3 times and worrying about the vibrator motor on your phone coming on, and then it moves it and it doesn't charge anymore, right? And these solutions work today at 6.78 megahertz, which is where some of these high power electronics can actually be quite efficient today. So, okay, let's see what's the next chart. And by the way, right, as I said, air-fuel technologies, we call it the next generation, but the next generation is available today, right? There are products with air-fuel, both RF and resonant, that are coming to market, right? Air-fuel resonant, we talked about the Dell laptop that I actually led the engineering for. Here is a really cool robot. Some of you may have heard about it. It's the Misty robot by the same team that builds the robots for the Star Wars movies. You see the Taipei airport has air-fuel resonant deployed. There's an interesting application here. We've talked about 5G and using it as a fixed wireless solution, except 5G doesn't penetrate indoors, right? So you have to put these 5G base stations outside. This is, the picture in the middle, lower row. And so you need wireless power to these CPE devices outside, the 5G CPE devices outside. And so we're using air-fuel resonant for that purpose. You see a wearable with air-fuel RF technology for a hearing aid, right? So you can just put these devices in a case or a pouch and they're charging, especially when you're talking about hearing aids, these are folks whose motor skills may not be the best, and asking them to align these pogo pins or changing batteries is actually quite a painful situation, right? So both our technologies are quite mature, and the first implementations and the first products with these implementations are now beginning to hit the market. Very good. This was the last slide. I'm hoping we have some time for questions today, and happy to go answer any questions that anybody may have. And if any of the members are interested in joining AirFuel, just reach out to me as well.
Yes, thanks, Sanjay. Yeah, we'll take some time for questions. Greg, do you have the ability to open the bridge?
Everyone has the ability to speak, and they just have to go to the lower left of their screen and unmute themselves. And then if you have a question, you can just state your name, organization, and then your question, or you can also type your question in the Q&A chat box.
Okay, any questions? Okay, well then I'll ask one or two. What is the ratio of devices per, I guess, transmitter per room? Are we talking tens of devices consuming watts, hundreds of devices consuming, a few watts?
Yeah, so it's a great question. If you're talking about the AirFuel resonance standard, we allow for 8 simultaneous devices, right? So you can be charging 8 devices on a charging surface. If you're talking RF, I don't think you want to have tens of devices receiving tens of watts of power, or even a single watt of power, right? Because now you're going to have to transfer 10 watts of power, which is going to run foul of any FCC laws very quickly. So it's really limited by the amount of transmit power, which is going to have to be about a watt or so. And there are there are specified guidelines that even cellular uses today, right? So that the amount of transmit power for RF is going to be limited by FCC and EMI considerations. And then really you can see how many devices do you have and how can they share power. The standard allows you to deliver power selectively if you have to.
Have you thought about having people put their devices in their microwave oven to charge them up?
That's what I tell can happen, right? Exactly. You can do that. I can deliver hundreds of watts of power. You can put it in a microwave oven. Nobody's figured it out to do it safely yet.
Okay, I would imagine.
But that's something, an example I use to tell people the technology, the limitation is not technology. The limitation is about safety at the end.
Sure, turning your living room into a giant microwave oven.
Exactly. I'm happy to do it if they can all run away from it.
And there's a question from the chat box is when do you think this market will be fully adopt this standard?
Great question, actually, right? So this one, I may have to plead the fifth here a little bit. One is, right, a lot of our members don't telegraph their product plans, and I am not at liberty to share anybody's product plans because of confidentiality restrictions and so on. But the technology is coming to market sooner than you expect, right? The ingredients, when I look at it, what does it take to bring something to market? We're done with the technology feasibility stage, right? It's no more about demos, right? 5 years ago, it used to be a smoke and mirror show, right? Hey, can I power something wirelessly? We're all beyond that. Today, semiconductor, I tell first thing if it's ready for consumer products is look, is there silicon available to make this happen? Nobody is going to build it using discrete components, right? And I am very happy to say there are about half a dozen folks who have proven silicon offerings on their portfolio, right? This is not IP in development, you can actually go look at their catalogs and get reference designs and so on, right? Which actually is one of the earliest signs that the market is getting ready for, this technology is ready for prime time now, right? So a lot of these things are coming to market a lot sooner than you expect now.
So you had mentioned the term battery free.
Uh-huh.
Is that really the case, or is there just a small battery that's you're wirelessly charging?
Great. Another awesome question, right? So the word battery can be a little challenging, at least in my own personal view. I expect something that is closer to a supercapacitor maybe, right? Which is a lot friendlier from an environmental perspective than all the toxic stuff that goes into a battery. But at the end, a capacitor in general is a battery in itself. But I expect capacitors for this purpose going forward, or very, very small rechargeable batteries.
Well, a lot of sensors, that are just in sensing the environment, use very, very little power.
Exactly.
Designed that way, milliwatts perhaps.
Right.
And so, yeah, capacitor kind of arrangement sounds interesting. Are you aware of any thing like that actually in production today?
I'm not at liberty to share that one, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, it's fascinating.
But no, absolutely, because one of the things with wireless power that I can refer to, right? You always worry about the leakage rate from a capacitor, right? But if the wireless power solution is always there, the requirements on the leakage rates can be actually, they're significantly looser now.
That's a great point. And so the hardware design can be need to be a lot less robust.
Exactly, right? So it actually simplifies a lot when I think the way I look at it, right? Wireless power is going to change fundamentally how we think about designing a lot of these things, because it's not a luxury that we've had until now.
Well, I'll just ask one more time. Any questions from the audience or the Q&A or chat room, Greg?
No, it doesn't look like it.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Greg and Roy, and look forward to continuing our cooperation between our two organizations.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gupta, and we really appreciate your time and experience, and look forward to working with the Air Fuel Alliance in the future.
Thank you.
So at this point, we are going to pivot to a research update that'll be provided on two different research reports, one that was published recently, and one that is currently being planned. So the former that will be provide an update by Obi Ike of ABB on the Connected Home IoT Energy Roadmap, and then Greg will provide an update on the Smart Home as a Service upcoming landmark research. So with that, Obi. Obi, are you on mute? Greg, do you know if Obi is on the call?
Yeah, he's on the call, and I think he just unmuted himself.
Okay, terrific. Obi, please go ahead.
Maybe I can go to and do the Smart Home as a Service, and then circle back to see if Obi is there.
That sounds great.
Okay. So we're doing a research project with the Connected Home Council through CABA on smart home as a service. So we originally did a survey out with our members and did some ideation sessions with the Connected Home Council to discuss ideas for this landmark research in 2019. We narrowed it down to 3 topics, and then we had a board meeting at CES earlier on this year. And we at that meeting, we developed a task force and to help select the topic and really flush it out. We had ABB, Acuity Brands, Alarm.com, Control4, Kimberly-Clark, TELUS, and UL were all involved in the selection process and really to pick this topic. And they selected Smart Home as a Service as really one of the leading topics that in the smart home in 2019. So we decided to go forward with that. We did a RFP request for proposal out to our CABA member research firms, and we selected we had 5 bids come in. We selected the top 2, and the initial funders are on the screen there with Alarm.com, ComEd, Hydro-Quebec, and Presidio. And we're still getting funders coming in and people going through the approval process. We're expecting to have around 15 to 30 funders in total. But once we get a critical mass of funders, maybe 7 or so on the steering committee, we'll have a webinar with where the research firms will pitch their topic, how they answer the question, how they answer this topic, and their methodology, and the research firm themselves. And then the initial funders will be able to select their research company to go forward. So this is a collaborative research project where we pool the funds from several different organizations and who are CABA members, and we pool it together. And they're generally $150,000 research projects in total. And they look at this one's going to look at the smart home as a service market. So it'll look at some of the technical barriers, some of the key players, some of the opportunities in the space, future market direction, a lot of the use cases that out there in the as a service model, and how organizations can capitalize on that. One of the key things that came out with in the task force is that this is not just for solution providers of service providers in smart home space, but it's also for the device manufacturers and pretty much anyone that plays in that smart home world, and how they can utilize that as a service model. And it could look at cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, analytics, smart speakers, fault detection, and really the opportunities are pretty wide open. And we're going to be doing both qualitative and quantitative research. We'll be doing in-depth interviews with some of the subject matter experts in the space, and we'll also be doing surveys out to most likely consumers. It could be industry as well, and to really get their take on the smart home as a service model. And if you're interested in joining, where there's still opportunity to get involved. We just started this process. There's 3 different funding levels. There's a $5,000 level where you'd get the research. It's really a pre-buy, and then you get to participate in a final webinar where the analysts will explain the research project. Then there's a steering committee level, which is typically the most common level, and then that one you get those benefits that you do at that sort of the bronze 5K level, but this one is the silver 10K for $10,000. You get to be on a steering committee, you shape the research, be involved in some of the updates, be involved in the editing process and shaping it, and also get a specific webinar for your organization. And then there's a gold level, $15,000 level where you get a case study incorporated into the research and all the benefits from the previous levels. So if you're interested in getting on board, learning more about this research project and how to get involved, contact myself or anyone from CABA, and we can definitely provide you a little bit more information about how to join this research project, and possibly even have an update with the analyst when the research firm is selected. Does anyone have any questions about this?
Yes, this is Adam from UL. Could you please describe smart home as a service? I'm a homeowner. I presume somebody, a service provider would come in and provide all these services for me, and I pay a monthly lease fee, or how does that work? And who owns the equipment? Who maintains it?
Well, yeah. So as a service model, it's really piggybacking off of what IT world has been doing with, say, like Microsoft Office and whatnot. And an example would be the Ring doorbell, where you may buy the Ring doorbell, but the video monitoring, there's an as a service for the cloud storage. And it could be a cybersecurity as a service, or it could be bundling and then really. It's using that traditional model that telcos have been using for a long time, where you pay on a monthly fee, and this is what you get. You get different services. I think maybe one of the low hanging fruits might be security in the space, but it's going to look at where are the different options about how to monetize the as a service model in the smart home world. So whatever that would look like, and look at some of the use cases around it. I think the Rethink Technology Research estimates that it's going to be around a $16 billion market by 2023 in terms of the smart home as a service market itself.
And will your research help identify how far we're along the Gartner hype cycle? Is this like really interesting, but there's not really an offering or people adopting it? Or what will your research do to help us understand the maturity of this model?
Well, I think it's safe to say it's fairly in the earlier stages, but there's still a lot of use cases out there. And then it'll look at where we are right now, and then where it could potentially be with hopefully a forecast, and say, like, this is where the direction is. Here are some of the low hanging fruits, and these sort of use cases, these sort of applications.
Yeah, can I jump in here, Greg?
Yep.
And comment, and just want to make sure that the definition here, smart home as a service, is being kind of universally agreed upon here. So it's a play on the term software as a service, where, as Greg said, you move your email to the cloud. You no longer have an email server on your premises. So everything is powered by the cloud. So it's not really about service providers getting a monthly revenue so much as a video doorbell being a brick without a cloud service that powers it, and an app that presents the information to a user. So it's essentially saying that a device does nothing without a corresponding software as a service in the cloud, and that that whole, if you will, construct, that architectural model is what we're really talking about here, not really a business model where you're selling smart home as a service. So it's really more a fundamental paradigm shift. I think we may already be past it, where a simple device doesn't do anything on its own. You really need to have an app to be table stakes for a typical homeowner. So I just wanted to kind of try to level set a bit on what at least I think we're talking about when we say smart home as a service.
Thank you.
So, Obi, are you unmuted at this point? So, Greg, would you like to provide a quick update on, or?
Yeah, I'll give an update on this research. This was the Connected Home Roadmap research project. So we started. This was our 2008 landmark research, where we did the very similar process that we did that we're planning this year, and that we did in the past, where we narrowed down some topics. We had an RFP, and this particular project, Harbor Research won, and it looked at the digital roadmap between industry stakeholders and identifying the challenges in technology and really lots of different topics were covered, from lighting, security, health and wellness, entertainment. It was really a roadmap of for the smart home. These are the funders that you'd see on the screen. So we have most of them would be silver funders. Then we have some bronze funders as well. We completed the research on March 12th, and the executive summary is available out to a CABA membership. And on July 12th is when the research goes out in embargo. So if anyone's interested, it does go for sale for $4,900 for CABA members. If anyone would like to get the full $150,000 research project on this that was done by Harbor. So if there's some interest, definitely reach out to myself or anyone from CABA, and we can provide a little bit more information and send you the executive summary if you don't already have it. Are there any questions about this particular research project?
Okay. Well, with that, next agenda item is to be done by Ken Wax, the president of the Ken Wax Associates. Ken, you there? Ken, you still on mute?
There we go.
There you are.
Yeah, we can hear you, Ken.
Yeah, so Ken's going to provide white paper subcommittee update as shown on the slide. Thanks, Ken. Go ahead, Ken.
Can you hear me now?
There you are. Go ahead.
Thank you. We have a number of papers in development. The one nearest completion is IoT cybersecurity guidelines, standards, and verification systems. You can see the many contributors to this. The chair is Tim Mosley of BC Hydro, and the lead authors are David Rogers, BC Hydro, and Fawad Khan from 12 Dot Incorporated. I just got an updated draft that I just got within the hour, and I'll be reviewing it and discussing it with the authors. We hope to have it completed within a month or so. When white papers are completed, they're all available to CABA members at caba.org/white-papers. So capital WITE hyphen capital PAPERS. Next paper is Power over Ethernet and Digital Electricity in Commercial and Multiple Dwelling Residential Buildings. This is being led by Tom Shearer of Somfy Systems. The working group was formed. We're waiting for the first working group meeting. We expect to complete this sometime in the third quarter of this year. The next paper is The Ethics of Artificial Intelligence and the IoT Connected Home. We have a small group working on this, chaired by Anne Breen. I understand there's been one working group meeting, and again, completion is third quarter of this year anticipated. The next paper, Human-Centric Lighting, Non-Energy Benefits of Lighting and its Smart Controls. The chair is Stan Walerke of Human-Centric Lighting Society. We're seeking volunteers now. Please contact Greg to sign up to help develop this paper. Greg tells me the expected completion date is Q3. We will see, since no volunteers have come forward yet, but maybe it'll happen. So that's where we stand. I'm very encouraged by the quantity of white papers. But as you can see, a number of the papers, like the IoT paper, take a concerted effort by working group members and a recognition that a number of revisions are required. So my advice to the proposers of white papers is roll up your sleeves and be prepared to work so we get quality white papers, as we have in the past. So I'm not doubting that we won't have quality papers. I'm just saying it takes work and it takes some time. Any questions?
This is Adam from UL. If we want to volunteer for one of these committees, how do we reach out to the person?
To call Greg Walker.
Greg Walker,
He'll
thank you.
put you in touch with the right person.
Appreciate it.
Any other issues, questions? As you know, CABA has resources for its members consisting of papers that are original papers generated in the Connected Home Council and similar papers in the Intelligent Buildings Council. Plus, we have papers that we cull from industry and we put them in the CABA library. That's done by the CABA Information Council. So you can participate by telling us of papers you have found that are useful. Do that via the CABA Information Council or CIC, or if you come up with ideas for papers that are novel and could stimulate the industry, do it through CHC or IBC White Papers Committee.
Well, thank you, Ken. I think, powering has always been kind of a boring topic, but I think it's going to be more and more critical. And the powering over Ethernet paper looks very interesting from the standpoint of being able to provide managed power throughout, the premises, and in such a way that you could conceivably even power off devices if you needed to, if they went rogue on you, which is, a big security concern. So that's a fascinating topic.
May I interrupt for a second?
Sure, go ahead, please.
Hi, this is Anne Breen. I had a question. By the way, first of all, the power that the webinar we just heard was amazingly wonderful, and it's IoT. Your speaker was absolutely right. IoT needs this to be effective at all. Anyway, I'm the chair of the AI and ethics paper, and we did ask Greg if he would talk to the Smart Building, Intelligent Building Committee to find out if there were any people there who might want to participate, because I think I have proposed to Greg, and he was going to look into this. I know he's been very, very busy, as to whether we could have a paper that would take both all of the AI effects and the ethics of those together. Anyway, so that's up in the air at this point. But anyone who wants to join our little work group is welcome to, although we have a wonderful set of people working for us. So that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Ann. Greg, any other issues that you'd like us to discuss in this part of the agenda?
No, I think it actually segues well into the next part of the agenda, which is the member benefits with the CABA white papers. So maybe if yourself and maybe Andrew can provide a little bit more color about the process, about how someone would be interested in bringing forward a paper or authoring a paper or getting one developed.
Yeah, this is Andrew here. I trust everyone can hear me. I'm the Member Services Coordinator with CABA, and excuse me, I have a bit of a cold. I might cough, but I've spoken, of course, to many of you and emailed many others as well. And the white paper program, of course, is the series of papers that we do published throughout the year, and we have, as you can see on the white paper site, several white papers are available for downloading from the CABA library. And if you did have an interest in proposing a new white paper, please reach out to myself or to Greg Walker, the CABA Research Director, who could discuss with you your proposal for a white paper subject, and certainly work out, and then Greg would help to form a working group consisting of CABA members and other stakeholders in that area of the industry that would have an interest in that. So we are looking to create, in fact, a connected home white paper. At this time, we of course have a wealth of intelligent building ones as well, but I know in conversations with Greg, he did say that we are looking for a white paper. So if anyone here on the Connected Home Council is looking to propose a white paper on that in some aspect of the connected home, perhaps related to AI and ethics, as Anne Breen had just said, whatever it is, please let myself or Greg Walker know, and we'd be very happy to entertain any proposals that you might have for a white paper, a CABA white paper. And yes, so please let me know. And Ken, did you have anything to add?
We have received proposals for a remarkable array of white papers, and we ask people to look around the industry and see where white papers would be appropriate. I noticed you put up the URL as caba.org/white paper, and the email Greg sent me had the word white-papers, plural.
But they both work.
They both work. Okay. Yeah. Very good. So I believe the white papers are available to the public. Is that right, Greg, or is it to the membership?
Yeah. So in order to propose a topic, you have to be a member, and but if you want to be at a working group, you don't necessarily have to become CABA members to be involved. And when the white papers are completed, then they're publicly available. So we post them on our website, and then we try to share them out with the industry, talk to them at different events, and both members and non-members can share and read those papers.
Very good. So come forth with some brilliant ideas and bring them to Andrew or to Greg. If you'd like to contact me, I chair the White Papers Committee, both for the CABA Home Council and the Intelligent Buildings Council. You're welcome to contact me. You can get my contact data at my website, kenwax.com, KENWACKS.com. Thanks, Greg.
Well, thanks, Ken and Andrew. Next on the agenda is any new business that the Connected Home Council would like to introduce. And along the lines of the white papers, we're open to any ideas, suggestions, any activities you think Connected Home Council should be involved in.
Well, one of the things that this is, Greg, one of the things that was brought forward to us by the Consortium for Energy Efficiency, the CEE, is that they're starting a new initiative, or they're changing up a little bit of pre-existing awards in lighting. So they have lighting for tomorrow was their well-known awards in the lighting space for a number of years, and they're changing it up a little bit, and they're trying to add a connected home component to it. So they're actually changing the award competition to lightings and homes for tomorrow, and they're looking for CABA members or anyone interested in the connected home side to be judges for this competition. So the event will be in 2020 is when it'll finally be completed. There's no set date yet. Normally they hold it every year, but with this change in the actual competition, it's been taking a little bit longer. So the judges will be used to select the winner There's no monetary award, but it's really a promotion. They do a news brief, press release out. They advertise it out at different events when they have booths, and it's really the value there is in the promotion of this award. And it's a fairly well known award in the lighting space, and they're looking at they're going to be using the UL. Is going to provide a facility, and then it'll be a 2-day event where they're judging awards in various different topics relating to connected home and lighting. It could be connected HVAC, connected home devices. There's a voice component and a security component award as well. And there's also opportunity if you do want to become join the steering committee, where there's these are the funders of the actual award itself, where they select the evaluation criteria, the judging process, and promotion, and actually who gets to actually to enter in and put a nomination forward for an award. So if you're interested, definitely reach out to CABA, and we can get you in touch with the folks at Lighting and Homes for Tomorrow competition, and give you a little bit more detail. They do have a business model plan that they can share with anyone who's interested. Thanks.
And Greg, is there a timeline or deadline for?
They didn't give me a timeline. Their original timeline was the end of the month, but they're not going to be able to. They're going to be extending that out. But I don't have a timeline for when you can be a judge or when you can be on the steering committee. But I'd imagine that there's still some time left because it's in 2020. But if there is someone interested, I can reach out to them, and we can get more details on actually deadlines and when they need to make a decision.
So it's Ron Zimmer, just president of CABA, just jumping in, and this is a really good opportunity. We work very closely with CEE, which is a key player. American Lighting Association is one of our CABA members, and UL, Underwriters Lab, of course, is a CABA board member. All very engaged here. So one thing, Greg, and I didn't see it here, who do they contact if they want to participate?
You can contact myself, and then I can pass you on to the right person.
And I think the key person from CE would have been on the call today, but they have their board of directors meeting today, so they are tied up in that. Otherwise, they would have been actually on to talk more about this. So thanks, Greg, for following up and helping them.
Good. And thanks, Greg. I had skipped over this agenda item, so I apologize. I believe, again, new business. Any other new business? Not hearing any comments. Hand it off to Ron. Thank you, Ron.
Thanks very much, and I'm really delighted to. And I apologize, I missed a portion of the meeting, but I know that this council has been very active in many ways, and one of the ways that for those that are new to the council may not be aware that the CABA board of directors, all 25 of them, have been very diligent in setting out a very strategic direction for the organization, and we have a new CABA Marcon plan that is very specific about how we disseminate our research and information. And so we have in place a CABA outreach program, which allows and identifies key events that CABA endorses, supports, and attends. And some of them that we did on the connected home side in the recent past, were the Internet of Things World, and we had a number of presentations. In fact, we worked very closely with the 22 research firms that are members of CABA, and I believe with Greg's assistance, we were even able to get one of our members engaged. I think Frost and Sullivan was engaged there, Greg? And then the second item was the Connections. Connections is an event that CABA helped start about 22 years ago with Parks Associates, and it became and is still very successful, one of the top connect to home events in the world. And about 8 to 10 years into that event, Parks purchased our 50%, but we still endorse, support, and attend this great event. Now, Greg was attending this year, and we made a special presentation as being our 30th anniversary. We made a special presentation to Tricia Parks, who in many ways was one of the key people that was instrumental in the early days of CABA. And so we were able to make that presentation at Connections. But it was, again, a very good event. I was at a different event, so I couldn't attend this year. But maybe I'll call upon Greg and Ken Wax. I know you were there as well, just to make a few comments.
Yeah, Ron, this is Ken. I was there. What was this a private meeting you had with Tricia? Because I didn't see you on the program.
Well, I wasn't there, so we offered to do it in prime time. But Tricia, as modest as she is, said wanted to do it in a more private ceremony. So,
oh, okay.
We just had a little trophy to recognize some of those that for the 30th anniversary, but she didn't want to do it on stage.
And Ken, if Ken, if you hang in with us long enough, you're likely to get one this year as well.
Thank you.
But it was definitely it was a great event. It's one of the premier events in the connected home space, and it's very well received by the people that attend. And I know that Ken was there, and I think he has copious notes, pages and pages of them. It
was a very good event. About 600 people attended. There were about 25 tabletop exhibits, and it was a well-organized, very useful conference.
So coming up, and this is not an exhaustive list. CD Expo is a sister association to CABA. In fact, we were both launched the same year. They are coming up to their 30th anniversary as well, and we will be there with a booth, and we'll be very involved again in Denver at the CD Expo. So again, a great opportunity for people in the Connect Home space. If you haven't attended, it's again one of the better events in North America for the Connected Home. The other thing I'll mention is that for those that may not be aware, CABA endorses and supports over 100 events annually. These are events that are very key to our industry, and you can go to our website and you'll see the endorsed events, and often we have discounts for CABA members. We may have free passes that you just have to, if you're a member, reach out to Andrew Glennie, and he'll let you know if we have free passes that you can attend. We will show if we're speaking or if someone from our ambassadors program is speaking. In fact, last year, as part of our outreach program, CABA set a record between our CABA ambassadors and speakers and CABA staff. We attended about 42 events. So a lot of events that we attend right around the world. And the last thing, beyond the endorsed events, we have what's called our calendar. And any event that we are aware of, whether it's produced by one of our members or it's produced by anybody, and it would relate to a part of our industry. It could be on energy, it could be on lighting, but if there's some aspect that would be of interest to some part of our industry, then we will post it and give the details. So if you're ever saying, I wonder if there's any events on blockchain or on data analytics or cybersecurity, you can go to our website and do a search and check. Or if you're in a geographic region, you say, I'm going to be in California, I wonder if there are any events taking place. Or you're looking to find new events to attend and showcase your wares and products and services. So that's a great, we probably have the most events of anyone in our industry for Connect Homes and Intelligent Building. So do take advantage of it. Are there any other events, I'll just throw it out to the audience, any other events that we should make people aware of, particularly as it relates to connected homes? If not, I'll turn it back to our chair.
Well, thanks, Ron. Just to comment on your question there, I think we need an event focused on smart home exclusively, and not sure when and if that will ever happen, but I think it's only a matter of time till this industry becomes big enough to have its own trade show. Well, with that, I'd like to thank everybody who attended and our guest speaker. And CABA for continuing to promote this sharing of knowledge and information throughout the industry. And with that, we will adjourn this meeting of the Connected Home Council. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.